Imagine this, you're asked this case in your interview. There's a Nobel Prize winning scientist who approaches your client, which is a global technology conglomerate, with a patented machine that can stop aging for exactly 10 years and then aging will resume after that. This is completely safe and reliable, but it only works once per person. Your client wants to know if they should commercialize this technology or not. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Pathfinder with Yatnika. Today in this video, we'll be talking about the science fiction and tech hypothetical cases in detail using exactly this example. So let's get started. So these are the cases where the product or the technology does not exist today or exist at a very early stage. Examples include teleportation machines, age pausing devices, we'll have a look at it today, mind reading technologies, or super intelligent AI systems, for instance. Keep in mind that you need to heavily rely on your first principles to solve these type of cases because we do not have any historical data available. So, for the science fiction and tech hypothetical cases, we can structure our thinking using FRAME. F stands for feasibility and functionality, R stands for risk and regulations, A stands for applications and target segments, M stands for the monetization strategy, and E stands for ecosystem and the externalities. First is feasibility and physics. When you're given a futuristic technology, the first thing you ask is what does this technology actually do? Then go deeper. What are the limits of this technology? What could go wrong? Think about failure modes, like the dangers of data leakage in mind reading technologies. What inputs are required? Do we need significant amounts of energy, AI, infrastructure, special hardware? And most importantly, can this realistically scale? A technology that works in a lab but cannot scale globally is not commercially viable. Then comes risk and regulations. This is where you shift from can it work to should it be allowed to work. Break risk into three buckets. First is safety, ethics, data, and privacy. Can this technology harm users physically or psychologically? Or does it invade privacy? Second is dual use risk or IP ownership. Could this technology be used for both good and harm? For example, teleportation could be used for logistics and healthcare on one hand, and also smuggling and terrorism on the other. Third is national security. If any highly disruptive technology becomes a geopolitical issue, governments may restrict it, regulate it, or even nationalize it. So, this dimension helps you analyze whether this innovation will face resistance, bans, or heavy oversight. Next is applications and target segments. Once you know the technology is feasible and regulated, ask who will use this. Divide it into B2C use cases, B2B or enterprises, government, defense, or PSUs, and any other strategic industry. Now comes the core business thinking, that is the monetization model. How does your client make money from this? Possible models could include direct sale, subscription, licensing, transaction fees, and PPP model. The right model depends on the risk involved, regulations, and scalability. Last is the ecosystem and externalities. This is the most overlooked but most powerful part. Ask who are the partners who help build, distribute, or support this technology. Who gets disrupted? What is the competition? What is the macro level impact? Jobs, markets, policies, global supply chains, etc. And what are the unintended consequences of this technology? So now let's solve the example I mentioned earlier in this video. So first things first, let me write the problem statement on my sheet of paper. So now I would want to ask a few clarifying questions to my interviewer. What is the objective of my client? Is it societal impact or profit maximization? Or is it brand positioning and reputation? Let's say the interviewer says that the client wants a mix of profit and reputation. I would also ask a few questions on the ownership and rights of the technology. Does the client own the global exclusive rights? Are there any geographical, time based, or usage limits to it, etc.? Let's say the interviewer says that the client owns the exclusive global rights and there are no immediate limitations. Then I would ask if there are any anticipated regulatory restrictions based on health, ethics, or biolaws, and if there are any government approvals required. The interviewer says that the government approval is mandatory before deployment and the client is ready to work with regulators. Then I would ask if this is a global launch or a country specific launch. We have been asked to treat it as a global launch. Then, is this a short term launch or a long term play? The interviewer mentions that this is a long term play and not a quick launch. Now, let's look at the five lenses of frame as we discussed earlier. Let's look into the feasibility and functionality of this product. From what we have understood till now, it is clear that the technology cannot be mass produced cheaply. It has heavy physical and infrastructure constraints. It is centralized and not portable. It is medically complex, requires high capex and expert supervision. Because of this, open market scaling is impossible and it will only lead to the rich buying this technology, leading to an unfair advantage. Instead, we should go for a controlled and institutional deployment. Now, let's have a look at the risk and the regulations. Ethical risk might involve rich living longer, leading to inequality in the society. Social risk might involve generational imbalance or delayed succession in leaderships and job, etc. Political risk might involve government classifying this as a strategic or sensitive technology. In legal risk, questions may arise on human rights or age discrimination lawsuits. Safety risk include unknown long-term effects of the technology. Since this technology involves alteration of human life cycle, it is very politically sensitive and requires a lot of ethical considerations. We cannot launch this as a commercial technology and it requires some regulatory anchoring. Regulation here is not a hurdle but a design constraint. So now let's dive into the applications and the target segments. Now let's create a table. Here we will analyze four target segments: government and public institutions, medical or clinical usage, corporate or critical talent, and ultra HNIs. We'll compare these four target segments based on three levels: economic attractiveness, legitimacy and risk, and strategic value. Let's analyze the government and the public institutions target segment. Here, the economic attractiveness would be medium since we will receive large contracts, but there would be some price sensitivity to it. High legitimacy will have low backlash and heavy regulations. The strategic value would be very high because we will get political cover and long term protection. In medical or clinical usage, economic attractiveness is medium because monetization here is very regulated and capped and is also insurance backed. There's high legitimacy since it is ethically defensible and is of high strategic value since there is anchors trust and data credibility. In corporate or critical talent segment, economic attractiveness would be medium to high since firm would pay heavily for a scarce technology. Legitimacy would be medium and strategic value would be medium since the segment is niche but is of high strategic coverage. For ultra HNIs, economic attractiveness is very high because there is high willingness to pay. Legitimacy is very low and there is a high risk of backlash. Strategic value is very less because it creates political and ethical fragility. So, from the analysis, we can see that ultra HNIs look economically more attractive, but they score lower on the legitimacy and strategic value aspects. Whereas the government and medical institutions provide lower profit margins, but they increase the survivability of our technology, making them better entry segments. Now, let's have a look at the monetization strategy. A few of the methods could be government contracting a number of annual uses, hospitals licensing treatment rights, corporate accessing it via government programs, etc. Here, we will avoid putting a price tag to this technology because it will help us shift the narrative from a luxury good to a strategic capability. A few of the monetization models could be licensing to the government, regulated treatment centers, public private partnership, or subscription to government, that is, capacity contracts. In this case, capacity licensing feels more appropriate rather than unit sales because it helps to balance the political aspects, sustainability, and the financial optimization of this technology. Now let's have a look at the ecosystem and externalities lens. Pension system would collapse if people live longer and the system is not ready to handle that. Workforce would stagnate, leaders would never rotate. Resource strain, more people living longer in a finite world would create a strain on the resources. So in this case, partnering with the government, establishing an ethics council and publishing impact reports will help tackle these problems. Let's move on to the final recommendations now. We will roll out this technology in a phased manner. Phase 1, that is year 1 to 2, would include partnering with governments and medical institutions, anchoring the legitimacy, co creating regulations, and limiting scale deliberately. Phase 2, that is years 3 to 5, would include expanding to critical professions like scientists, surgeons, defense, and researchers. Phase 3, that is year 5 plus, would include highly controlled commercialization using quotas or progressive pricing. This will help us balance ethics, public trust, and long term enterprise value as well. So, this is how you structure uncertainty in a science fiction and tech hypotheticals case. In the next video, I'll be coming up with another interesting example from entertainment auctions and bidding category of the unconventional cases. So, stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and please hit the like button if you found this video helpful and subscribe to my channel to stay updated. I'll see you in the next one.